Shout out to the real. Shout out to the fake. Shout out to that nosy chick. She better stay in her place. Get in line.
Get in line.
Shout out to Achilles. We about to chop it up with him. We're going to get to the bottom of prison politics. We're going to get to his circle, which reached out to me. That's how we got here. I'm excited to talk to him. He got a very, very good story, and we have a lot of things in common, and I can't wait to get to it. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir.
Achilles.
Yeah. Honored to be here.
Shout out to the real. That's my man, Chad DeSaga. That's my co-host. My bad for not including you in the intro. I'm a little bit juiced up.
We here. Let's go.
So, talk about it, man. Introduce yourself, Achilles.
What's going on? See, it's still at time where you're at, right? You out Pacific, right?
We in New York.
Oh, okay. You on East Coast time then. So it's 8 o'clock there too.
Well, he's in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Still East Coast, 8 o'clock.
Right on.
So introduce yourself, Achilles. Talk about it. We should talk about it. Get into it. Introduce yourself, brother.
So we out here. It's Achilles from Harford County / Baltimore, Maryland. Been in this hip hop thing here for a few years, steady, making some moves. EPs coming soon, couple bangers coming soon as well. Grateful to be here with y'all on the Highly Dysfunctional, and just looking forward to shedding some light on a journey, past and present.
Life is a journey, and let's talk about it. So you're from Baltimore, Maryland. How did you grow up?
So I actually grew up about a half an hour outside of Baltimore in the suburbs. Baltimore, my story, obviously only being a half an hour away, from the Orioles to the Ravens, I always had a lot of love for the city. But shortly after 18, I became incarcerated. Actually, right after my 19th birthday, I became incarcerated. And for the majority of my 20s, in and out of the institutions. And so Baltimore was a big part of that. So I consider myself a Baltimore artist because the journey and the manhood that I developed was through Baltimore, and the men and women, that I met in the city. And basically my defining years were in Baltimore. So that's how Baltimore came into my story. Entire 20s were in and out of the prison systems in Baltimore, Maryland.
Shout out to the real. My entire 20s was in and out of the prison system also. So that's what we got in common. We got a lot of recidivism. I heard you speak about that. I have done that also. So I know how that feels. I know how difficult it is to climb back up. Before we get into the reasons why, tell us how hard it is to break that cycle. Because a lot of people don't know. People talk about prison being tough, but people don't realize it's tougher once you release from prison.
For sure. Probably one of my toughest battles I've ever had to overcome. It almost got to the point where I felt like life on the installment plan was coming. And I've seen, brothers that I've watched go in and out of the system, whether it's on the back of the wagon or in the bullpen, you run into them, might see them on the street, and next thing you know, you hear they're locked back up because it's just so easy. Once you're on probation, and you're on papers and you've been in and out, it's just so easy because, the judge sees you again, thinks you don't want to make a change. So they're just that easy to give you even more time, especially when you have big time over your head. My first sentence was 20 years, all suspended with 18 months at the age of 18. So when I came home, I had probation with 20 years over my head. Whether I fail a piss test or catch a new charge, I could be sentenced all the way up to 20 years. So that's what I was facing at a very, very young age. And there's a lot of men that, face the same thing, and I've witnessed it. So it's one of the toughest things to overcome, for sure.
It definitely is, man. Coming in and out of prison, dealing with the parole system, what I think was a hindrance. I know some of the rules have changed right now. And I know how it feels to be locked up for minor offenses and for years on end. I've been through that myself. It was one time I thought like it got to the point where I thought I couldn't even function in a normal society. That's how bad it was. I didn't learn that I could function in a normal society until I went on a run for 4 or 5 years. And, you know, that was like the most freedom I've ever had, you know what I'm saying, since my time in prison. So I know how difficult it is, man. But why did you get locked up at 18?
Drug charge.
Mhm. You was in possession. Was you rapping at that time?
I was not. I was not listening to a lot of rap, listening to a lot of hip hop, but I was not. I was not rapping at that time. No.
So you just was in the streets. You was hustling, dibbling and dabbling, doing a little bit of this, doing a little bit of that.
Exactly. You know, I'd say an average hustler, maybe a little above. It just depends on the standards. You know, I was living solely off of hustling, and I was doing all right. You know, see, growing up in the county, I didn't have a lot of predecessors. As some people in the city, you have a lot more people that are hustling, so a lot more people to learn from. I didn't have so many, so I feel that's why I made some errors in the streets at a young age, and why I did so much of the time that I did, because I didn't have a whole lot of role models to learn from. Because where I grew up, most people were, you know, working. You had a few, you know, maybe marijuana hustlers or some slight things, but what I was more into, not as many predecessors around me that I knew of anyway. So I think that led to some of my issues.
Chad, you got something?
Yeah, salute Achilles, Chad the Saga here. So you talked about the incarceration. When did you decide to become an artist? At what point?
Much later. So that first incarceration, I was 19. I didn't start writing my first rap until about, I was 26 years old. Was my third incarceration. So obviously there was a lot more life that transpired. Being in and out of prison and coming back home, trying to start over, as you know, you're mentioning your co-host, just a lot more. And then being around other aspiring artists, some guys just doing it for fun, whether it's just beatboxing or freestyling just to pass time in the system, or people that were taking it serious. I just felt an urge. I've always had an urge to write. I've always enjoyed writing, you know, from sending kites home to family members or people I was in relationship with, or homies. I've always had a passion for the pen. So it kind of just, it just kind of came out of me. You know, the passion for hip hop was always there, and the passion for writing was always there. So it just kind of came to a head and was like, this is the right therapy. You know, it feels good, and why not do something that you love?
How would you, real quick, how would you categorize your style? Is it universal? Is it one lane? How you got it going on?
Universal. Definitely would hate to be considered a box in a box. You know, I still feel like there's a lot more experimenting that I want to do with my sound. I don't just listen to hip hop. Hip hop is definitely the majority of what I listen to, but I like other genres as well and appreciate all music for its art form. But definitely versatile and plan to expand on that. You know, I like testing the waters. I like seeing what's in store and creating new sounds. And I think the listener enjoys that as well.
What's up? All right, Smash.
So you think you're gonna be like into like a Machine Gun Kelly type of thing?
I'd hate to label myself with any particular artist. You know, I think that'd be up to the listeners to kind of depict that and you know, clarify on that. I wouldn't say that. No, I mean, not that I think he's a bad artist, but I don't play the guitar. You know, shout out to what he's doing, but that's not. I'm not going to be a rock and roll artist. No, I consider myself an MC, a rapper, a hip hop artist. So at the core, that's what I would hope to be labeled for sure.
So who'd you grow up listening to?
Everybody. I mean, obviously Big Pac. My first hip hop album was actually the Big Timers. You know, listened to a lot of Wayne. Wayne was probably my most major inspiration. Kanye, Jay, Nas, Jeezy, T.I., Dipset, you know, just to name a few. I mean, lately it's been a lot of Kendrick, Cole, Lucas, for sure. But, you know, there's other artists, independent artists, you know, Chris Webby. There's just so much out there, you know, right now. Little Baby. I know he's not independent, but he's obviously a phenomenal artist. There's so much out there. 50, obviously, with one of the best albums of all time. You know, there's a lot. I'm pretty versatile. I got a pretty versatile ear.
So let me ask you something. So who's the top 5, man? Let me get your top 5. I know Wayne is in there. So who will be your top 5, man?
My top, dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
Wayne, and this isn't in no order. It would take a little longer to figure out in order, but just off the top of my brain, I'd say Wayne, Big, Pac, Eminem, J. Cole, maybe Kendrick.
So those are majority of lyricists. So do you think that you know, the lyricists are getting overshadowed in the game? You know, it's a lot of gimmick rap. You know, the females is coming through with a lot of different gimmicks. Do you feel like, you know, lyrics are still important?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I would never want to see the day where lyrics are not important in hip hop. I mean, me as an artist, they're crucial. You know, I know sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. But to me, lyrics are almost everything. I mean, obviously, flow cadence is tremendously important too. But I hope that lyrics are never something that's overlooked. I mean, I feel that it is now more than it ever has been overlooked, unfortunately. But I also feel like the people are getting sick of that hip hop's been watered down a little bit, and people are just tired of hearing the same shit with a basic flow and sounding like the competitors. I'm not for that, and I feel like the people are starting to resent that as well.
So do you get compared to any artist?
Sometimes, yeah. I see you laughing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, being as a white artist, of course, I've been compared to the white artists more than the black artists. But you know, I've also had people tell me that my sound is unique and it doesn't sound like anybody. So it's just a matter of opinion.
The gift and the curse, you know, categorized as far as, you know, like when I first heard one of your songs, I was like, damn, he sounds like M, you know, not that it was a bad thing, you know, but you did have that kind of cadence. I thought it was good, you know, so it is a gift and a curse, because as an artist, you don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? You're like, nah, I'm trying to be me. I'm trying to be Achilles, you know, but in this day and age, a white artist is always going to be categorized with the other white artists, for whatever the case may be, even if they don't sound like it. But for you, there's some parts where I do pick, and it's good because you are a lyricist. You know, I did peep that. And I could tell off the top, you know, who's a mumbler and who's a lyricist, you know what I'm saying? You definitely are a lyricist. So salute to you on that, definitely.
Much love. I appreciate that.
Shout out to the real. Achilles, how'd you come up with your name?
Happened while incarcerated. Like I say, I answer that question on different days, probably a different way, but it happened while incarcerated, you know, just brainstorming. And part of it is because of my journey. You know, I got to remind myself to stay strong and to keep a positive will, because I've had my battles, you know, from addiction, like I said, obviously incarceration. So it's a way to also remind myself to, you know, stay strong and remember what you came from. And maybe somebody won't have to go through it, or my story can shed a little bit of light on what it's like to grow up my way and to be in this situation and to, you know, almost ruin your life, essentially. Start out in a pretty decent situation and almost ruin your fucking life and then build back from it, you know? So that's part of it. And just, you know, the homies when I was incarcerated liked it. You know, I was batting ideas around. You know, I'm also into Greek mythology, so that probably plays a part with it. But it just stuck, and I didn't want to ever desert it.
So shout out to the real. what did you, when you was going down this road, you know, you started at 18, you got locked up, that's pretty early. What was your parents at? What was they thinking? What was they saying to you? What did they communicate to you?
So this is, you know, this is a fairly deep subject because, I mean, I have amazing parents. I grew up in a nice middle-class area. Parents worked hard. You know, they didn't have a whole lot, but they busted their ass. Both former military, you know, started in a one-bedroom apartment. Like I said, not a lot of money, and worked their way up in order to provide for me and my sister. You know, their values are pretty much the same, but how myself and my sister came out are a little bit different. You know, my sister, God rest her soul, you know, she passed away when she was 34 years old, and I was actually incarcerated. She was a Baltimore County police officer on the outskirts of Baltimore City. You know, so she was on the other side of things, and here I was, a felon at 18 years old, and she was a police officer. So obviously we butted heads quite a bit with the way I was living my life and the way she was living her life. And obviously that probably wasn't the easiest on my parents to see her go her way and me go mine. But obviously we kept morals and principles pretty high. It was just, you know, the decisions of way to obtain money and the people, I guess, that we hung out with, and our views of the law were obviously a little bit different. But, you know, shout out to my mother and father. They've both been there. You know, they got a divorce when I was around 15. So that probably started my path, because it was just me and my mother. My sister's 12 years older than me. So she was out, you know, doing her thing, being a police officer. My father probably saw life more the way my sister did. And my mother sees life more the way I do. You know, so I was closer with my mom. My sister was probably closer with my father. But, you know, today I have great relationships with both.
Mm-hmm. Are you married? Are you married? You know, anything like that? You have kids?
I do have a daughter. Yes, I got a 9-year-old daughter. And I'm not married at the moment.
So so you single? You out there fucking?
I do have a lady. I do have a lady. I do have a support system.
All right, all right. So when we talk about, you know, your battles and we talk about overcoming addiction, just talk about, how did you feel when you hit that rock bottom? Because a lot of people say, and I've been through that myself. So everything I'm talking to you about has been something that I've been through. So I have knowledge of this myself. So when you hit that rock bottom, man, and how did you, you know, you had to pick yourself up, man. What did you talk to yourself about? What was some of the inspiration that you got to clean yourself up and become a better person?
Well, first and foremost, probably family. You know what I mean? Just got tired of putting my people through the shit, you know, and then my daughter. When you're not living for just yourself anymore, it changes your perspective because somebody's relying on you. You know, it's one thing when you go out and you fuck up and you make bad decisions and you suffer the consequences and you can take them as a man. But when you have somebody that's relying on you, that you got to put food in their mouth and a roof over their head, you can't just take it on the chin that easy anymore because somebody's relying on you. So that was a big part, you know, and fatigue, just tired of it, you know, just tired of it, of the incarcerations and you know, that obviously wears on you after a certain amount of time. You know, it's a grueling process from court days, not wondering what your fate's going to be, to the back of the paddy wagon, sitting on steel benches. I mean, years of that shit will wear anybody down. I mean, it takes its toll. It's just a matter of how much at what time to, you know, to different individuals. So it was the fatigue, but I attribute the majority of it to having a child and to not want to let the family down for all the work that they've put in, you know, throughout my life. You know, they deserve more than that. I deserve more than that.
Mm-hmm. So some of those street values, man, we talk about prison politics. That's the name of the EP.
Of the single.
Oh, that's the name of the single. That's not the EP.
That's not the EP, no. That's
what's the name of the EP gonna be?
I don't even know. I don't even know yet.
Is it done?
It is not. It is not. It's almost finished. We probably got one more single I got to throw on there. It's probably, we'll say it's 90% finished.
90% finished. And how many songs do you have completed, period? I see a few videos. I like Move. I like Shorty Get Loose, if I'm not freestyling right now. I like a few of those joints. How many songs have you written since you started writing rhymes?
Written?
Period.
Written. Notebooks. I mean, probably hundreds.
Hundreds. And what's your inspiration when you do write?
Depends on what mood I'm in. Depends on what mood I'm in. I mean, it could be my life. It could be, you know, overcoming. It could be world events. It could be my daughter. It could be my family, you know, or it might just be, I just want to make something that viewers are going to listen to and hopefully like. It all depends on the mindset when I sit down.
So this EP is going to be real introspective, man. It's going to be really about, because I see you write about, you know, some of the things you've been through. That's real shit right there. And everything you've been through is real shit. And people can learn from that and learn from that journey. Like you say, I always say life is a journey, man. And that's what this show is about. It's about negative to positive. That's what Highly Dysfunctional is about. And like I said, some of my story is pretty much similar to yours. So I almost lost my train of thought there. I was talking about your story, I was talking about where you're going to, where you're going. So where you at right now in life, tell me the difference, man. You got Akilliez the rapper, and then you got yourself as a person. Is there any difference between? You seem like a pretty laid back guy. Was there a time that you was you know, highly dysfunctional?
Oh, absolutely, no question. I mean, that's I'd say Akilliez writes about Brandon, the highly dysfunctional person, but Akilliez is the one that holds it all together. I feel like when I put on those shoes, I put on that hat, so to speak, that's when it's all together. You know what I mean? And it's just the realness and hopefully positivity of overcoming, of just trying to be better than I was yesterday. And the ultimate goal is to leave a positive mark. You know what I mean? I don't want my name to be remembered as somebody that did a lot of time, let their family down, you know, couldn't overcome addiction and didn't appreciate his life and what God gave him.
So what are you most proud about right now?
Being clean.
Being clean?
Being clean.
What was your drug of choice?
Well, being close to Baltimore, you would say it almost makes sense that it would be opiates, which it was. You know, that was definitely the main drug of choice. I mean, obviously I experimented, I dabbled with several things, but opiates was definitely the one that had the strongest grip on me.
Shout out to the real. Did you ever have a life-defining moment when you was, or was it just jail and just being tired? Did you have a life-defining moment? You ever, because you had to go through a situation that was like, you know what? This is
it. Many. I think overdosing and waking up and seeing my sister's eyes in the hospital bed, that was one. Then getting a call to the chaplain's office while being incarcerated. You know, my father had cancer at the time, so I get a call to the chaplain's office, and everybody that's done time knows if you get a random call to the chaplain's office, it's not good.
Not good.
And I remember being on a tier with some homeboys, and we were joking around, you know, busting each other's chops, and they say my name over the loudspeaker, you know, Gentry reports to the chaplain's office. And all the seasoned convicts knew. They stopped right then and there, like, nah, you know, it's game time's over, because something real probably just happened in this man's life. And that's when, you know, I got called to the chaplain's office, and I get on the phone, and it's my father, and I immediately think it's him, that there's an issue with him. And then he proceeds to tell me that it's my sister, that, you know, she had an accident, she's in the hospital, and it's not looking good. And within 24 hours, they're going to know if she's going to make it or not. So that was one. So yeah, then obviously previous to that, like I said, overdosing and waking up in the hospital bed, seeing my sister, peer around the corner and look into my eyes. That was a tough one too. And then there's more. There's more, but those would be the two that are standing out right here. That's a pain that I didn't want to keep feeling.
How many times did you overdose? 'Cause I know I've been to programs one time, so that's lucky because I hear about people that overdose
3, 4.
5, sometimes 10 times, you know what I'm saying? So, I hear about that a lot. So you only overdosed once, so that's pretty good. You said your sister died in an accident?
She had a seizure while she was taking a bath.
Wow. Wow. Was she prone to seizures? I caught a few seizures myself. I got this scar over my head, bust my head off. So, but
she developed it later in life. Yeah, she became epileptic, I believe, in her early 20s. So yeah, she's prone to them. And anybody that's epileptic, hot water or hot tubs can bring that on. That played a part for sure.
when you was in the streets, did you ever, was your sister a cop in the same neighborhood that you was running the streets in?
No, she was not. Thankfully, she was not. No. No.
When you was running, did you go around your family a lot of times, or did you, isolate?
I was an isolator. I mean, at this point in time, my mother and father, they were separated. I didn't have the best relationship with my father at the time. So there was a lot of isolating going on. And obviously my sister, trying to do her job with integrity, it was tough to have a relationship with me, knowing what I was actively doing. So isolating for the most part, other than, my squad.
Since you came from a decent family background, do you even know the reason why you started to indulge?
With drugs?
Yeah, period. Because you said you went backwards. So
Yeah.
you had, something triggered, something happened, or, did you feel, what made you feel like that you needed to go backwards?
Well, I guess I would say at the time it didn't feel backwards. When you're in the streets and you're having success in that, or you're having success in anything, it doesn't feel backwards. You don't feel it until you have the incident or you have the fuck up and you end up incarcerated and your life changes. Why I got introduced to it or probably decided to proceed with it was because I wanted to blaze my own path. I wanted my own money. I wanted my own situation. Like I said, the parents were separating, so things weren't as easy on my mother financially with the separation. So obviously, I wanted to support myself and help her in any way that I could. And then obviously, anybody that knows anything about the street life, it's intoxicating. So when you have success in it, it's easy to get caught up. It's a roller coaster. So once you're in, it's a little hard to pull out. So, what pulled me out was prison.
You have any meaningful relationships that you still have right now from the streets?
Yeah. I mean, a few. Because obviously trying to make a change in my life, I had to let a lot of that go. So, I have a couple contacts. I mean, I definitely still have meaningful relationships from men that I was incarcerated with, for sure.
Do you still go back around the way?
Yeah, absolutely. And in a different light, you know what I mean, for different reasons. But for sure. I mean, I love Maryland. I love the city. I love the county that I grew up. It's home. So, it took a lot to get to that point. I had to distance myself for a little while, but when I felt comfortable to go back, I did, and I still do.
So now that they see you today, your parents, your loved ones, people that care about you, what do they say about you today?
Say they're pretty happy. I'd say there's a sense of pride, You know, they're obviously happy because it was a long road. I mean, we're talking many years of addiction and recidivism. So obviously, with the sisters passing, a lot of their joy is dependent on how well I do. And then obviously having a grandchild, me having a child helps a lot. You know, brings a lot of joy to their life as kids do for any grandparent or any parent. So you know, I feel that they're happy, you know, today for sure, most definitely.
Are they encouraging you with this? They encourage you on your new path in this hip hop thing? Are they behind you?
Yeah, no question. I mean, we'll say hip hop's not my father's favorite music, but my mother, you know, she's always been supportive in any aspiration I've had from day one. So for sure, you know, she's a big music lover. She appreciates hip hop for what it is. Obviously recognizes the talent in it. For myself to any other artist that she's been able to listen to through me. So yeah, there's definitely support. Sure.
You talked about Richie Evans. You got a song coming out called Ambition.
We do.
So how did that connection come about?
We had some mutuals. You know, shout out to Richie. I love what he's doing. He's a phenomenal artist, got a phenomenal sound, a genuine dude, real dude from day one where we connected. You know, it's been real. And obviously this industry, there's not, I'm not gonna say that there's not a lot of that, but there's a lot of negative in the industry as well, which isn't no secret. So, you know, to link with a real one, it is a big deal. So just through the mutuals and obviously the love for the music and the ambition, no pun intended on the name of the song, it just cohesively worked.
And when is that dropping? I want to hear it.
Soon. Next month. Next month. We have an official date, but you know, I talk to Richie fairly often, so we're looking at next month. You know, what I'll say what delayed it is obviously the EP, and then I got some other things going on, and obviously Richie does as well. But we're looking at next month.
That's going to be on the EP, or just straight single?
Yeah, well, it'll probably be dropped as a single, but it'll be on the EP as well.
Cool.
For sure. Makes sense. So, but that was dope.
You mentioned the industry. Have you had any situations that left like a salty taste in your mouth so far?
I'll say I've been in situations where they didn't turn out as favorably as I thought maybe they would have. But most of my experiences have not been negative. No, I've heard many more stories with other artists or, you know, producers, engineers, videographers that maybe have had more negative situations than I've had, for sure. I mean, you know, and obviously you gotta gather your own grasp on reality with things you hear and decipher what may be fact and what may be just, you know, myth or clickbait or whatever it may be. But my experience hasn't been too negative. You know, I try to operate around the solid ones. I try to keep, you know, solid, hold myself accountable as well.
When we talk about reach, man, we talking about you just starting this thing out, not that you just started rapping, but you're about to drop an EP. What are your goals, period?
I love doing something that I love. You know, that's the main goal is to do something that I love, and that somebody gets something out of my music that I get out of music. You know, what music does for me on a daily basis, through all the tough times to the positive times, the energy that it provides, you know, that it can work as a natural painkiller or mood enhancer or inspiration for your next adventure in life. That's what I hope my music can do to other people.
Shout out to the real, man. So we talk about your core group, you know, your management group. Who's in your corner right now? Independent, you know what, you're doing this, you got your label. Let's tell me about all of that good stuff, the business of hip hop that you got going on.
So for now, it's pretty independent, you know, just really, you know, me and my engineer as far as like a main confidant. I mean, the relationship with Richie as well. You know, the other artists I've worked with, you know, I've definitely formed some relationships in the industry. But I'm pretty much my own management. I mean, I have people that I, you know, bad ideas around with and people that I trust their opinions on, but you know, it's mainly independent. That's the way I probably plan to keep it for the foreseeable future.
Shout out to the real. So let me ask you one more question, man. What's the craziest thing you've been through in the streets?
Craziest thing, man. I felt the energy, or I felt that was going to be the question almost before you even finished it. And I guess I'll go with the story that popped in my brain, even though there's been many. You know, driving through the hood. This was during my my using experiences, and I was driving with an individual who burned somebody, which, you know, addicts tend to do. You know, it's part of the street. You know, hustlers, addicts. You know, people know that. That's not uncommon knowledge. So we're driving through the hood, you know, looking to cop, and out of nowhere, I see an individual running towards the car, and he hops on the hood of the car. And I come to realize very quickly that the individual driving burned this guy. So obviously he gets a little shook. The individual came from an area where several people were standing around him. You obviously can only think that there might be weapons involved, that these individuals are probably strapped or in the middle of the hood. So he proceeds to take off with this individual on the hood, and tries to shake him while he's on the hood, and he doesn't come off. So obviously this individual on the hood gets pretty cocky, thinking that, you know, he's going to pull over and have his confrontation. Well, the driver proceeds to get on the highway and gets up to a high rate of speed. Exactly fast, I don't know, but we're going to say over the limit. So now this guy's face, his confidence isn't so high on the front of the car. And he's looking at me like I can do something, you know, as the passenger. And really I'm chilling because I'm not driving, you know, I'm not going to jail for this one. I'm obviously don't think it's too wise for this guy because he's about to go to jail for vehicular manslaughter if anything happens. But he winds up slamming on the brakes, and this guy falls to the front of the car. I think God was in it with this individual because somehow he got caught onto the front of the vehicle. So I think he's going to run him over. But thankfully, luckily, this guy manages to roll off the side of the car and to keep tumbling. I look back at the rear view and he's just rolling. You know, I don't know what his injuries were. We obviously kept going. But that was obviously a pretty fairly serious incident because, you know, we were probably close to causing an accident, which might have ended in this guy's life. And, you know, who knows what this individual had on him. So, you know, it could have went a whole bunch of different ways. So that's one little story that sticks with me for sure. I don't know if that was the craziest, but that was definitely a pretty crazy one.
So, hold on. So you said you was chilling. You wasn't like, oh shit, oh, stop the car. You wasn't doing none of that.
Honestly, no. I almost thought it a little humorous because I'm not driving, so I know if the cops get involved,
I'm just a passenger.
Well, I'm the passenger. You know, to be honest. And I did look at him like, you know, bro, what are you doing? But at the same time, I understood it because he burnt this dude, and he's worried about what's going to happen if, you know, we stop the car. You know, because his beef's with him. You know, I didn't burn this dude. So his him. So I see why he was, you know, trying to do what he was trying to do, because he was just trying to cop. You know what I mean? So I did find it a little bit humorous. I was hoping we weren't going to kill the guy because I didn't want to have to deal with that. But yeah, part of it was a little humorous. I was glad that he didn't get ran over though, and it didn't end up like that. We were able to go on with our night.
You just laughed after that, like, ah, woo, like that.
For sure.
So you ever burned somebody before?
Oh man, I don't recollect. And,
I got a question. Being an ex-addict that you are, do you, like, as far as support, do you have like a sponsor, or do you go to meetings, or you just live day by day? What?
yeah, I feel everybody should have support. I mean, I feel it'd be a foolish man to not have support, whether they're not an addict or not. You know, not to have somebody that you can't confide in or you know, go to for advice or whatnot. So, you know, I definitely have support, no question. And I feel that I give support. You know, I feel that's the way it should work. I mean, we're humans, we're here to help each other. You know, you ain't going to get nowhere or too far by yourself. So, you know, there's definitely support, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
So let me ask you, talking about prison politics, man. What are some of the things you learned in prison? I mean, and when I was in prison, you know, it was always that white and black dynamic. And you got some white guys and some black guys that, you know, deal with both and deal with everybody. What was some of the things? What was your prison experience as far as the gang culture, as far as the racial component in it, and some of the things, you know, your experiences in there?
Man, there's a lot, you know. Like I said, that was the years in which I feel that I was formed as a man. A lot of the principles that I have, I developed through prison. That men respect men, period. That men do what they want, boys do what they can. You know, that respect is as huge as it gets. You know, that the streets isn't what it's cut out to be. You know, people glorify a lot of things, but you know, the mood shifts when you're incarcerated, that it's not all cracked up to what it looks like. As far as the racial thing goes, I saw a different side. You know, I grew up in a middle class area, but I think I did so well in prison because before prison, I had every race around me. I had black friends, Asian friends, friends from India, Dominican friends. I was friends with everybody growing up. So I think that's why I was able to navigate well in prison, because it was genuine, you know. And when I say that men respect men, I realized that in prison, that if you walked as a man, acted as a man, backed your word, and were honest, that any man was going to respect you. It did not matter your color. I learned that definitively in prison.
Shout out to the real, man. Shout out to the real. So when you think about the world today, how do you feel about it, man? You see a lot going on in America. You see the government is in you know, shambles. You see that, which I'm starting to like, but you know, that's just me. But how do you feel about it?
I think we need a lot of help. I mean, shout out to the people that are trying to make a difference. You know, we need a lot of help in America. I feel that we've come a long way from where we started, and I think people need to realize that. You know, it's not perfect. No country is perfect, but the fact that we're only as old as we are, and where we are with the diversity and people of every race being able to get to where they're at, I think that that's worth mentioning. And that with the good people who want to see respectable, honest, God-fearing people do well, that's what's going to happen, because there's a lot of evil in the world as well that doesn't want to see America do well. So, you know, that's our enemy. I feel that more of our enemy today is domestic. than foreign, unfortunately.
So are you a Trump fan?
I'm not an anti-Trump fan. You know, I'm more of a Trump fan than Biden.
I'm definitely not a Biden fan. Definitely not a Biden. What about you, Chad?
I'm a best person for the position fan. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I don't always vote for my party. You know what I mean? I vote for the best person for the situation. I can't see just voting for somebody because of their status. You know what I'm saying? They may be worse for the job. Why would I choose that? You know, a lot of people can't stand the fact that Trump did bring a lot of hatred to this country. But people will say, well, the country was running better as a business as well when he was in office. Then you got the people who will say, yeah, it's running better as a business when he was in office because of the person behind him who set that up in place. Like Achilles said, we need to trust more, we need to love more, and we need to get back this country the way it should be. We did make a lot of progress, but we also regress as well. Same token, we take 2 steps forward, we take 1 step back. You know, there's a lot of craziness going on. You know, and our future leaders. You know, if you look at these young kids like that are going to eventually be some powerful people, hopefully, in this government and stuff. It's wild. You know, so all we could do as elders is try to school and educate, but it's tough. You know. The music, you know, if we could do education with music, forget about it. We'd be good to go, you know, because that and social media.
Shout out to the
They
real.
hit. That's why they hit social media on the propaganda, because they know we're going to eat it up, you know, so we'll see what happens.
For sure. They have to be.
Shout out to the real Chad the Saga Achilles, straight out of Maryland. How you feel about snitching?
What's that?
How you feel about snitching? And snitching hip hop.
Good, like the old school does. You know,
Yeah.
that's a sour topic. That's a sour topic because, you know, let's just say if I didn't want to do the time that I did, I could have found my way out of it, but I didn't. You know, I sacrificed 10 years of my life and I could have got out of it with my mouth, but I didn't. So I obviously stand on the principles that, you know, I grew up on and that I was taught. And it's a shame that others don't, you know, but I feel that everybody's going to have to deal with that, you know, when they meet their maker.
Do you think that there's no like values and morals in hip hop anymore? Like nobody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody could just do anything. It's like whatever. Shit is out of control.
To a degree. To a degree. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I feel that, you know, all the seasoned artists still have the morals and principles, and there's some in the new generation that definitely do, but there's also a handful that I feel that's not there other than clout and money and women and fame, you know, which is unfortunate for the craft.
Mm-hmm. Do you think one day you'll get married?
Maybe one day. I mean, that's not the focus right now. You know, I was always taught not to rush that, so that's still how I feel about it. And I feel that if you got a bond with somebody, you know, that marriage is just a piece of paper. You know, it's if we make a commitment to each other, then that's stronger than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you something. Give me one sentence to describe yourself.
One sentence or one word?
And one word or one sentence. It can be both. Achilles.
As the shirt says, only as strong as your will. So that's all of it. Will is something that you can fortify, so you're only as strong as your will. Will is something that you can build up like muscle. So we're each only as strong as our will.
How do you see people?
I love people. I love people. I feel like people can achieve anything.
Mhm. How do you see the world?
Needs help.
And what would be a perfect day for Achilles?
Man, wake up, hit the gym, hit the studio, lay something flawless. You know, it comes out just the way I want it to, from the delivery to the tone to everything. The engineer's feeling it. Then later on, I'm with my daughter, with my lady, have a great meal, and get to thank God for it. And, you know, probably seeing the family as well. You know, if it was a family gathering for dinner, that would be good. That would be great. That'd be a pretty perfect day. From a great workout to a great studio session to a great meal with the people I love. That's, if I could do every day like that, that'd be perfect.
What kind of women does Achilles like? What's
Oh man,
Achilles type?
the one I'm with.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah. So are you a breast man, booty man, leg man? What?
All the above.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer.
From the ears to the hair to the nose to the toes. Everything God gave.
All right. I just need you to do one more thing. I need you to tell people where to find you, tell people where to check you, look out for that new music, and then say shout out to the real highly dysfunctional.
It's your boy Achilles, AKILLIEZ. Find me everywhere from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. It's the same everywhere. Shout out to the real. Make sure you check out this whole interview at Highly Dysfunctional. Support the channel, support the music, support the culture. Much love.
Thank you for coming on, Chad the Saga.
Salute. Another great interview. Same bad time. I guess we got something going on tomorrow. But Achilles, it's been a pleasure. Wish you all the best. You definitely got my support. So I definitely will be looking out for all your projects. Definitely. Salute.
Likewise. Appreciate that. Appreciate y'all both. Y'all have a beautiful night.
Appreciate the conversation. It got heavy, it got deep, it got introspective. Shout out to the real. Shout out to the fake. Shout out to that nosy chick. She better stay in her place. Get in line, punk. Salute Achilles. Tomorrow we right back at it. See y'all tomorrow. Achilles, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Much love, my brother.